Hey, Dr. Ford here, and today I want to talk about chronic pain. Chronic pain is defined as pain that lasts longer than 3 months. And it's important to note that by the end of 3 months, any tissue damage you may have sustained should be healed at this point. It's also important to note that you can experience pain without any tissue damage, and the amount of pain that you're experiencing does not correlate to any injury. An example that I like to use is that if you sprain your ankle in front of an oncoming bus, you're not going to experience any pain. You're going to want to get the heck out of there. But if you experience a paper cut immediately after getting dumped, it's going to be 10 out of 10 pain, like your finger was sliced with a dull knife. So, what happens when we get injured is our brain sends inflammatory signals to that area. Let's use the low back as an example. You tweak your low back, your brain sends those inflammatory signals, that inflammation cleans everything up, you start to feel better, and that part of your brain that's experiencing those pain signals that's connected to your low back starts to calm down. Eventually, the alarm bells that went off when you were injured started to dissipate. With chronic pain, and for reasons that we don't quite understand, that part of your brain that's dedicated to your low back is still experiencing those alarm bells. And remember, you might not even have had an original injury. For some reason, those alarm bells just keep going off, and your brain's having trouble turning them off. With those constantly ringing alarm bells, your brain's not getting a lot of rest. That part of your brain that's dedicated to your low back becomes really, really sensitive. It has to be on high alert at all time because you might re-injure yourself or whatever. Maybe you didn't even have an injury. Brains are stupid. At this point, maybe one of your hips starts hurting. Oh, great, you think. Now I'm even more injured and broken. Actually, what happens is that part of your brain that's dedicated to your low back gets really tired and it starts recruiting other areas around it. So maybe now the area of your brain that is dedicated to your low back and your hips start paying more and more attention to that part of your body. And that pain starts moving around in a way that's very confusing and makes you feel not so great. At this point, you're probably freaking out. You're probably not moving as much as you used to. And as a result, any inflammation in the area is going to have a harder time dissipating. Great. So now you're experiencing pain and your brain damaged. Just kidding. We can fix this. This is where we start getting into the woo-woo stuff. When you engage in a regular movement practice, not only are you decreasing systemic inflammation in your body, sorry about that barking, I think that the evil mailman has arrived. Where was I? When you're experiencing pain, this is where we start getting into the woo-woo sounding stuff. When you engage in a regular movement practice, you decrease systemic inflammation in your body, which in turn can help that inflammatory process that's going on in that area with chronic pain. We want that inflammation process to calm down. In addition, with a regular movement practice, when you're moving around, your brain is super busy trying to figure out where your body is in space, and it's less able to interpret any pain signals that it's receiving. Continuing to use the example of the low back, by starting a movement practice that makes your low back feel good and confident, you're building what I like to call a resiliency toolbox. With this resiliency toolbox, you're able to get your brain to calm down. You're teaching your brain that it's safe to move your body and that your low back doesn't need to hurt. It can pay a little less attention to that area. Gradually, with a regular movement practice, your brain is paying less and less attention to that low back as it's very distracted by other things. That part of the brain that has been dedicated to experiencing pain in your low back starts to shrink, and now your right hip is no longer hurting, and that part of your brain that's dedicated to your low back is doing what it should be doing, reminding you of all the embarrassing things that you've ever done while you're trying to sleep. Now, it's important to remember that with chronic pain, that part of your brain that's dedicated to your low back might be a little jumpier than usual, and that's okay. This is totally normal. You might experience a pain flare, but remember that at this point you've developed your resiliency toolbox and you're in control. With this confidence and reduced fear around pain, you're going to reduce your likelihood of flares even more. The take-home message is that if you're experiencing chronic pain, your pain is very, very real, but you probably don't have any tissue damage in your body. You're experiencing a nervous system dysfunction. The principles that I talked about still apply even if you have a disease like arthritis that can make you more predisposed to pain. When you're engaging in that regular movement practice, you're decreasing systemic inflammation and your brain is not able to receive those pain signals anymore. Anyways, I hope this helps. Let me know if you have any questions, and I look forward to talking to you soon.